Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Fall Jersey. Joe Archino back here. And I think after the additions of Andrew Bogut and Deron Williams, everyone kind of agreed that the Cavaliers were in control of their own destiny when it came to defending their NBA title from last season. But now that Andrew Bogut is going to be out for the rest of the season, I think we all kind of are maybe reconsidering it a bit. But I think just to get into this a little bit, obviously last night, in case you haven't heard yet, Andrew Bogut saw his first action for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it took about 58 seconds, and that's all that his Cavalier career will most likely span, as he fractured his left tibia. And it's just a terrible injury. I mean, you have to feel bad, no matter what fan of a team you are of. You have to feel bad for Bogut, for the Cavaliers, because it's just, nobody wins when players get hurt. I mean, if you're rooting against the Warriors, Kevin Durant gets hurt. We all lose as fans when great players or interesting players get hurt. I mean, you want to beat people when they're at their best. I mean, that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it entertaining and compelling. But just a terrible bad luck for Andrew Bogut and the Cavs. And I think now the question kind of comes to, do the Cavaliers, are they as much of a lock? And I think once they added Williams and they added Bogut, everyone was pretty universal in their thought that Cleveland was in full control of being able to redefend their title. I still think they will win the title and they will defend their crown, but I think certainly it will be a lot more difficult now. Now, we'll see what they do with Bogut, if they waive him, if they bring in another guy. Most likely they'll have to, because I think when we still look at it, they're looking at it as, we're going to see Golden State again. Will they see San Antonio? Perhaps. San Antonio is right on Golden State's trail right now. They have a chance. Even Houston, I guess you can't count out. But I think largely we're all still pretty realistic in thinking we're going to see a rematch of what we've seen the previous two seasons in the finals. Cavs versus Warriors, Part 3. But in Part 3, Andrew Bogut, once the Cavaliers had him, I think we all looked at it and said, this is going to be a major difference maker for Cleveland. Because I still think the thing that separates Cleveland from Golden State, they both shoot threes, they both are very talented offensively, but the one edge that Cleveland has over Golden State is their toughness. Now, you could say all you want about Draymond Green and how tough he is. He's the enforcer for that team. You don't want to mess with him. But the other guys on that team are kind of soft. I mean, I don't want to put a knock on Klay Thompson, because I think he is a tough guy. He is their best defender. They have a lot of great defenders. But when they start getting banged around, and we saw it the last two seasons against the Cavaliers, they can be disrupted. And I think the first time around where LeBron had an injured Kevin Love and an injured Kyrie Irving, where he did all that by himself, he had so much help from Timothy Mozgov, Tristan Thompson, and they were able to use their physicality to push Golden State around. That series was a lot closer than it should have been. Cleveland almost made it interesting. Of course, we know how it ended, but I think the thing you saw there was how dangerous Cleveland's physicality was and how it disrupted so much of what Golden State wanted to do. And this, again, would have been another one of those additions which would have helped Cleveland's physicality over the Warriors. But I still don't think that it's one of those things where it's going to be a big detriment. I mean, look, Tristan Thompson, we know how big of a load he carries for that Cavaliers team. They're going to need to get him some help. I mean, most likely someone will be coming in. You've heard a lot of names mentioned. I just this morning heard Larry Sanders as a possibility. But, I mean, you never really know. This is a bump in the road, but I don't think it's anything that can't be overcome. Most likely what we're looking at in the Eastern Conference, and this is the best the East has been during LeBron's tenure with the Cavaliers, and we look at it his first season, walked to the NBA Finals. We look at it his second season back with the Cavs. Once again, he walked to the NBA Finals. LeBron's two easiest paths ever to the Finals have been the last two seasons. And that's even when you take into account his years with the Miami Heat. I mean, we know how good those teams were with Bosh and Wade, all the bench players that they had, all the depth that they had. They still really struggled getting out of the East. We remember Indiana, how many Game 7s did we see on TNT where LeBron and the Heat had to sweat it out, grind it out, and get it done? They still did. They still reached the finals, won 2 titles, lost 2. all great stuff, but they struggled and they had to really fight to get there. These last 2 years for the Cavaliers and LeBron, they breezed past it. I know Toronto put up a little bit of resistance last season, but largely, I mean, they have walked, and you consider the first year that Kevin Love was absent outside of the first game of their opening series against Boston, and then Kyrie Irving sat out basically the whole series against Atlanta. They walked, and they swept Atlanta. Atlanta was the first seed in the Eastern Conference that year. But this year it is much, much different. Boston is tremendously talented this year, and I think they might not match up with the Cavaliers for player to player with talent, but they're so well coached under Brad Stevens that they make up for so many of those things. They're tough, they're scrappy. Isaiah Thomas is as tough as they come. And then, of course, you still have to take into consideration Washington with how good Beal and Wall have been this year. But I think still it will most likely maybe be a game or two that they present a challenge with. But the Cavaliers will get back to the finals. I wouldn't say with as relative ease as they have the last two, but most likely it will still be a pretty easy walk and ride getting back there. Now it's just a matter of how does Kevin Durant look, and that really is going to be the question. With a healthy Kevin Durant, I think you have to think the Warriors have every chance in the world, even with everything that's going on, even with the Cavaliers' versatility and physicality, to beat Cleveland. Without him, I just don't think there is. And you do have to say that Durant would be one of those guys because of his size and because of his range and offensive capabilities, would be one of the people who would be able to counteract some of that physicality that the Cavaliers have. But just a really tough one for Andrew Bogut. Really feel for him. It was one of those things where Cleveland, I mean, and we kind of forget, just a few weeks ago, the Cavaliers were in quite a bit of turmoil. I mean, LeBron saying to the media that they need more playmakers. They were on a really bad losing streak. And then how quickly that kind of bit was eradicated and moved with nothing but bliss. But now it's another little bump in the road, but I don't think it's anything that's the biggest deal in the world. They will get through it, and most likely we're going to see Warriors Cavs Part 3 in just a couple of weeks' time. But until the next episode, Jersey Joe Archino here with the Sports Vault. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino and on Instagram, Jersey_Joe_Archino. And I'll catch everybody in the next episode.